Did you know there is a desert on Earth where its very name means he who goes in never comes out? Welcome to the Taklamakan. For centuries, the legendary Silk Road merchants had to cross this unforgiving sea of death. There were no roads here. The shifting sand dunes erased all tracks instantly. So, how did they navigate? By following the bleached bones of the men and beasts that had died before them. TR. Temperatures boiled by day and froze by night. One wrong step, one lost water skin, meant your wealth and your life belonged to the sand forever. This was the deadliest stretch of the ancient world's most important highway. To discover the full, epic history of the Silk Road, 2,000 years ago, the world was a fractured, isolated place. The great empires of humanity lived in complete darkness regarding one another. In the West, the mighty Roman Republic was rising to power, unaware that thousands of miles away, an equally magnificent civilization existed. Between them lay an impenetrable curtain of lethal deserts, towering mountain ranges and fierce, bloodthirsty, nomadic tribes. There were no global trade routes, no exchange of ideas, only silence and distance. In the east, the Han dynasty of China was fighting for its very survival. The empire was wealthy, possessing the most heavily guarded secret in the ancient world, the creation of silk. But they faced a terrifying threat. From the northern steppes came the Xiongnu, ruthless nomadic warriors who struck with lightning speed on horseback, leaving only ash and death in their wake. The Chinese armies, relying mostly on infantry and slow chariots, were being utterly slaughtered. The emperor was desperate. To defeat the nomads, he needed better cavalry. He needed the legendary heavenly horses, beasts of immense size and speed, rumored to sweat blood, bred by mysterious kingdoms far to the west. In 438 BC, the emperor entrusted a loyal palace attendant named Zhang Qian with a suicidal mission. He was ordered to step into the terrifying unknown, beyond the edge of the known world, to find these horses and secure a military alliance. Zhang Qian's journey was a descent into hell. Almost immediately after leaving Chinese territory, he was captured by the very nomads he was sent to defeat. He was enslaved for 10 brutal years. He endured starvation, freezing winters, and unimaginable psychological torment. Yet, he never forgot his mission. When he finally managed to escape, instead of running back home, he pushed further west. He crossed the deadly Pamir Mountains and reached the fertile valleys of Central Asia. What he found there changed the course of human history. He didn't just find the heavenly horses, he found massive, advanced civilizations. Kingdoms in modern-day Uzbekistan and Afghanistan that possessed enormous agricultural wealth, bustling cities, and a deep hunger for trade. And most importantly, they were absolutely mesmerized by the small scraps of silk Zhang Qian still carried with him. 13 years after he left, Zhang Qian returned to the Chinese imperial court. Out of the 100 men who started the journey, only 2 survived. But the intelligence he brought back was worth more than any army. He revealed that the world was vastly larger and richer than the emperor could have ever imagined. He reported that if China exported its precious silk to these Western kingdoms, the wealth and powerful horses that would flow back would make the empire invincible. The spark was lit. The emperor immediately ordered massive military campaigns to clear the route of nomads. Guard towers were built. Camels were loaded. The gates were opened. Driven by the blood of horses and the softness of silk, humanity took its first deliberate step to connect the globe. The Silk Road was born. Before the massive cargo ships of the modern age, the world was connected by a single, fragile thread. And that thread originated in a city unlike any other on Earth. Welcome to Chang'an. In the early days of the Silk Road, this was the absolute center of the Eastern universe. While the great cities of Europe were still small and struggling, Chang'an was a perfectly planned, heavily fortified metropolis of over 1 million souls. Enclosed by massive, pounded earth walls, it was a city of rigid order, towering palaces and immense, unimaginable wealth. But the true source of this wealth was a state secret so heavily guarded that speaking of it to foreigners could cost a man his head. The West believed that the miraculous fabric known as silk grew on trees. The Romans draped themselves in it, paying its weight in gold, completely ignorant of its true origin. The Chinese emperors held the monopoly on the humble silkworm. This tiny creature was the ultimate engine of the imperial economy. For centuries, the penalty for attempting to smuggle silkworm eggs or mulberry seeds out of the empire was immediate and brutal: execution. The borders were locked tight. Merchants arriving from the West could trade, but they could never learn the process. They were confined to specific, highly regulated zones within the city walls. The most famous of these was the Western Market. Here the real journey began. The Western Market was a chaotic, vibrant sanctuary of global commerce. Imagine stepping into a dense, smoky square where the air is thick with Arabian frankincense and Indian spices. Thousands of foreign merchants, Persians, Arabs, and Sogdians from Central Asia, mingled with the Chinese locals. They communicated in a dozen different dialects, passionately haggling over the price of silver, jade, and the precious bales of silk. The Sogdians, masters of the ancient trade routes, were the essential middlemen, preparing to carry the empire's treasure into the terrifying unknown. As autumn approached, the preparations reached their peak. The only vessels capable of crossing the oceans of sand ahead were the magnificent Bactrian camels. These two-humped beasts could carry massive weights, endure freezing nights, and survive for days without water. They were carefully loaded with the empire's finest goods. Armed guards were hired, weapons were sharpened, and final prayers were whispered to the gods of the road. Finally, the massive iron-reinforced gates of Chang'an creaked open. The caravans stepped out of the safety of the greatest city on earth. Their faces turned toward the setting sun. They were leaving behind the known world, stepping into a landscape of unforgiving deserts and ruthless nomadic raiders. The ultimate journey of human history had begun.